Hi, I'm Pierre Escobas from Riviera Macro. Welcome to my garden, which doubles as my macro playground. Today we're going to do a little tutorial about handheld focus stacking. We're not going to do it in the field, that will be for another episode. We're going to do here in the studio that we're going to be setting up on the table right behind me. So, you want to see how it's done? Follow me. So here's the equipment we're going to need. Camera, of course, with a macro lens. Subject, which we hope will cooperate. Studio, I'm going to set it up right after this. In the studio, a little support with a rotating plate, which can make it more convenient to put my subject. For lighting, 2 flash units. And I'll operate them remotely, so I'm going to need the radio triggers. And to power the flashes, a power pack, okay? So that's all we need. Now I'm going to set the studio and accelerate the video so that it doesn't take too much time. So now I set up everything, I'm ready to shoot. I've placed my subject in the box. It's a very nice white moth which we found this morning in the garden. So I'm going to release it right after the shoot. It's very quiet, good subject for stacking. I put it on a kiwi leaf which I picked up right behind me. It's all very convenient to have the studio here. Setup of the camera and the flashes. I set up the flashes at the absolute minimum power, 1/128, so they can recycle extremely quickly. With the Godox pack, it's going to be almost instantaneous, the recycling, which is what I want. So I've set up this value on the radio transmitter. Everything is in manual mode, of course, the flash and the camera, so the exposure will be constant. On the camera, I set up the speed at 1/640th of a second and the aperture at 5.6. 5.6 will not give much depth of field, but I'll have very good image quality and I can do many slices and they will overlap, it's no problem. f5.6 allows me to have more light getting into the camera. The key thing is to reduce the flash power as much as possible with your system. In my case, I can compensate the high aperture by a high speed because these are high sync speed flashes, so they accept speeds until 5,000ths of a second or something. Just try and set up your shots so that the flash needs as little power as possible so they can recycle very quickly. So I'm in burst mode and I will be moving back and forth doing my series of shots to get the stack. My mouse is very flat, so I put it on a leaf. I'm not going to see the background. But if you have you want to do an insect, for example, that will be on a stick like this, use the clamps, my favorite hardware store clamps. And this is a twig from the garden too. And I can put an insect here, but then I will see the white box in the back. So I will be using one of these printed backgrounds, which I've shown you before in a tutorial. So I can get the beautiful light from the box, but I won't see the white. I'm going to remove the cover very gently, and I'm ready to stack. So then I explain how to align the images. Okay, that's it. So how do I keep my alignment? I use a trick, although I'm in full manual mode, including manual focus. I use one of the autofocus points as a guide to align my images. Say I've put here the AF point in the middle of the screen, the viewfinder, and I center it between the eyes of the insect. And when I move forward, I aim it at the same place. And therefore my images would be more or less aligned. I may shake a bit sideways or up and down. It doesn't matter, because if there's not too much difference in alignment, the software will handle that perfectly. Either Photoshop or Helicon or Xerin, they can align the images, not a problem, as long as the images are not really too far apart. Try and be steady, hold your breath, and just move frontwards or backwards. And actually, you have to do several stacks because you'll then choose the one that's the best. You may miss some slices, and so therefore it's good to have several series. You just pick up the best series, and that's it. So it was time for a break because we're in the middle of a heat wave now on the French Riviera. So taking a little break, glass of water, and here's my favorite assistant, although she's not very patient when it comes to taking pictures. So now it's time to process the images. So we have to do a little bit of computer work, and I'll try to show you the results of what we've just been doing. Okay. I've now imported all my images in Lightroom, and I'm going to look for the right stack to process. The way I do this is I go through all my images and figure out where a stack starts by scrolling through the images. I will then mark that first image, then go down the list of images until I find the endpoint of the stack. Once I have done that, I will associate them into a stack in Lightroom. So once the stack is done in Lightroom, it's very easy to work with it, either now or in the future. I can expand it or condense it at will and keep my series of images. The next step is to remove any black frames. You see in these images that some images are completely black because the flash misfired, especially at the beginning, and so I can remove them. It's always possible to salvage those frames, but I'm not going to go into that right now. The next step is to expand the stack, select all the images in the stack, right-click on them, and export to Helicon Focus. Once all the images have been imported in Helicon Focus, I'm going to process them using method C. I like this method because it's got more precision in doing the stack. You may want to refer to the manual of Helicon Focus to see what are the specificities of methods A, B, and C. You can see the stack being assembled, and when it's done, you can review the final image and look at any artifact. There are artifacts in this particular image because it was handheld, stacked, and there are missing frames. The distance between my frames is not absolutely constant, so that results in out of focus areas. You can somewhat modify that using the retouching panel in Helicon Focus. Once you're satisfied with the final stacked image, you just save it on your hard disk and then close Helicon Focus. This will result in the image being re-imported into Lightroom along with your original files. So what I like to do is color code the stacked image with a different color. Here I use purple, and then I open the development module in Lightroom to post-process my image. My classical method for post-processing raw files, here actually a TIFF file, is to increase contrast, look at exposure, highlights, shadows, etc. Add a bit of sharpness, a bit of vibrance, and that's just very classical. I don't do a lot of post-processing anyway. I might remove some dust and my image will be done. You can see here there are some artifacts, as the antennae may have moved slightly during the stack, but that's okay for this example, and I'm pretty satisfied with this moth portrait. So now let's have a look at a series of other images I've produced using this method on other insects from my garden. That's it. I hope you have enjoyed the tutorial. If you have any questions, let me know. See you for the next episode.